will be interviewing the program director of Avenue of Life, which is a nonprofit homeless shelter in Kansas City. So, what is your name?
My name is Cameron Erlinson.
So I will be asking you some questions about how Avenue of Life works and how it impacts the city. First question, how do you think Avenue of Life impacts the city?
So at Avenue of Life, we work with children and families that are homeless. And very specifically, it's in Kansas City, Kansas, all of Wyandotte County. And historically, Wyandotte County has been the least, I guess you could say the least invested in community in Kansas City, in the general Kansas City area. When we started in 2015, there were 1,400 homeless kids in Wyandotte County, just in one school district, USD 500.
What does the program director do?
So as the program director, my job is to work with all of our staff to put together the strategies and implement those strategies to help the families that we serve. So we do everything from teaching classes on housing and finance and healthcare and employment. We work with the families to get jobs. We actually have a strategy that incorporates 16 different areas of a person's life. Everything from income to employment to transportation to childcare. So everything that you need in order to help a family go from a place of poverty to stability, we do. Now, that said, we work with 52 other agencies. We're the backbone or the lead agency for this strategy to end student poverty and homeless in Kansas City, Kansas.
Impressive.
No, thank you.
Why did you choose to work at Avenue of Life?
Well, over the course of my career, I've been in the nonprofit world. So I was a pastor, actually, for 18 years. Went to school and my undergrad in Chicago, and then got my master's degree in organizational leadership. So my education lends toward helping agencies, organizations work effectively. The reason I work at Avenue of Life is because I want to do something that is a service to the community, but I also want to do something specifically with an agency that brings about genuine transformational change in the lives of people. And so Avenue of Life, our strategy to help children and families who are in poverty move into a place of stability, I see it work. So to me, what's most significant is the outcomes that happen in the life of those children and in the families.
How can we contribute to Avenue of Life?
Well, at Avenue of Life, we are a nonprofit. So to back up in terms of what that actually means is that as an agency, we don't make something and sell it to make money. We don't produce a service to make money. When we serve, we do so with an end towards serving the community. Now, it does require resources to do that. The resources we provide to the families that we serve typically are things like rent or utility assistance, and that takes money. So people can always donate money. But we also provide food, clothing, hygiene items, so people can actually donate those items specifically to Avenue of Life. The best way to give to Avenue of Life is either through our website, which is at avenueoflife.org, O-R-G, or they could just call up. They can volunteer, they can bring donated items to Avenue of Life if they'd like. It's pretty simple.
What aspects do you like about Avenue of Life?
Well, I mentioned earlier that I really appreciate working at an organization that makes genuine transformational impact. So there's real change that I get to see in the lives of the families that our staff work with. So I love that. But on top of that, whenever I think about the community as a whole, when we move children to a place where they're outside of poverty, it has an impact on the entire community. So for me, it's very rewarding to not only help those children and those families, but also to see a transformation in the entire community, specifically in Wyandotte County. But because of the effectiveness of our program, we have replicated what we do in other cities. So for the last 3 years, Topeka in Shawnee County, Kansas has been doing exactly what we do. We as an agency have been asked to come out and train Orange County, Florida. So this is in Orlando, that area. We have replicated in a couple places in school districts in Kansas City, Missouri. We're in conversations with other locations as well that I can't share just yet because it's not confirmed. But it's nice to see that this strategy is so effective that other communities have asked us to teach them so that they can see their kids and their families and their community experience the same kind of transformation.
How does everyone contribute to Avenue of Life?
Well, when I think about contribution, and there's two different ways to look at that. So, of course, we have a phenomenal staff, and I have the privilege of leading the vast majority of our staff. So all of our, what we call navigators, so those are case managers. So if you think about the person who goes to school to become a social worker, those are case managers typically. We call them navigators. They work directly with the families. We've worked with, during this school calendar year, more than 750 different families who are in poverty in Wyandotte County. So that's one way to contribute. As a staff person, someone may be pursuing education to do social work and service in the community. We also work with volunteers. So we have volunteers that come to Avenue of Life, and they do anything from sorting clothing or making food packs. We give out 250 food packs every single week to those that we serve. They make meals for those who are chronically homeless. They can organize hygiene items. They can quite literally clean the building, because with that many people coming through our building, it gets messy. And so there's many ways for people to contribute, whether it's contributing one day as a staff member, maybe contributing as a volunteer, and of course, as I mentioned before, someone can donate, whether that be from a financial perspective or through what we call in-kind items, so food, clothing, hygiene items, those types of things.
So who oversees all of the work at Avenue of Life?
That's a great question. So every organization has a leadership and a structure. And so at Avenue of Life, the way it works is we have a CEO. Very often in a nonprofit world, though someone is a CEO, they typically call that person an executive director. So Desiree Moniz is our executive director. She actually founded Avenue of Life, and she has a long history of working in the nonprofit world as well, and has led very large organizations to great effectiveness. So we have a CEO and executive director. The way it's structured in most nonprofits, and actually with most agencies or most businesses, that you might have what's called a board of directors. And in a nonprofit world, the board of directors are a number of people who would vote on things like what the annual budget would be. So we have a board of directors that votes on the budget, but then the staff, which are led by our CEO, our executive director, implement the strategies utilizing the budget that's set. So we're led by our staff, meaning led by our executive director. The staff implements the strategy, and we have a board, an executive board, that makes decisions on our finances.
Why do you think it's important for people to donate to Avenue of Life?
Well, I think there are a couple of reasons why I think it's important to donate to Avenue of Life, and I'm going to actually make it a bigger question. Really, it's about donation and service in general. We have, in fact, just a couple of weeks ago, we had a group of 50 elementary kids show up at Avenue of Life. Now, it was planned. It wasn't just a random group of kids showing up at our agency. We knew they were coming. And one of the things that we do is we teach, as much as we're able, a heart of service to our community. We want our young people as well as our old people, but we recognize that not all of the young people in our community have had the opportunity to serve in a way where they really understand the needs of other people. So when an individual or a group comes to Avenue of Life, we teach them, we give them real world experience, hands-on experience, working with those who are dealing with poverty. Everybody from those who are quite literally on the street homeless by serving meals, providing resources for them, to recognizing that not everybody has the same opportunities, and so we have a responsibility as a community to remove barriers, to create equity for our community. And those barriers can come from a lot of different factors, but I believe that as we encourage people to give of their time through serving, to give of their resources through generosity, whether it's financial or otherwise, when we give people those opportunities to invest in their community, not only is it important for those who are served, but it actually becomes transformational in our own lives as well. That it helps us to become the people that ultimately we really desire to be.
So could you define equity? Is there a difference between equity and equality?
Oh, there's absolutely a difference between equity and equality. And the best way I would describe it, and unfortunately I don't have a graphic that I could show because usually a picture is more effective at communicating this. So, but if you could picture maybe three people at a baseball game. And in fact, they're not in the baseball game, they're watching the baseball game from outside the fence. And so equality would mean that all of these people who are kind of peering over the fence to watch this baseball game, if it was equal, each one would maybe have a chair like the one we're sitting on to stand on to look over the fence. That would be equal. It would be fair in essence. You know, they can't see over, so each one gets the same chair. The problem is that each one of them is a different height. So one of them might be 6 foot tall, one of them might be 5 foot tall, one of them might be 3 foot tall. Now, it's equal, it's fair to give them all the same size chair. But the problem is the person who's 3 foot tall, if they get a chair just like this, they can't see over the fence. The one who's 6 foot tall could easily see over the fence. The one who's 5 foot tall can stand on their tiptoes and see over the fence. That's equal. They all got the same chair. But it's not equitable. See, equity means you give to the individual or group or whoever it might be. We're going to just pick those three. Equity means the same opportunity to succeed, even if it's not the same thing that you receive. So the person who is 6 foot tall doesn't even need a chair. They can stand and look over the fence. The person who's 5 foot tall might need a chair just to kind of, make it easier for them to see. But it's absolutely necessary for the person who is 3 foot tall to have that chair to see. That's equity. You give the person who is 3 foot tall a chair so they can see over the fence. You don't give one to the 6 foot tall person because it's not necessary. Now, it isn't equal. One's getting a chair and one is not. But it's equitable. The opportunity for each one exists based upon the needs that they have.
Well, it's really opened my eyes to how everyone can contribute to the city. And I hope that it has opened the eyes to anyone who's seen this video.
So, well, thank you so much for letting me share. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for sharing.